Dyslexic Genius here. We're back on the oilized bronze bearing of the Triumph, and I want to talk a lot about it. The bearing I took out is this one here. And these are a zinc oxide bearing with lead release on it, and it causes them to deteriorate and crack. And two things happen to this. One, they start to get soft. Then they get hard. And this one got hard. I could barely drill through it. So I had to come in and cut it out with a hacksaw blade. And what you do is you have a long blade like this. You have to drill it out so you can get it through the hole. So you have to come in here. An easy way is you want to keep it on an even plane. You don't want to go like this in the bearing. You want to come in here like that, and then you gently sand it. And you have to keep looking to see if it's touching the inside of here, the casting. You don't want to mar that. And then I beat it out with a brass punch, and you can see this. Sometimes they're hard, sometimes they're soft, but it was pressed in. They absolutely fall apart. You know, and I've looked at the paperwork at the Edison site in New Jersey, and Edison always said, let's do this better, let's do this better. Well, better is an oilized bronze bushing. This will never go away. And what you have to do is you have to drill a little hole here, and then you have to figure out the center here. That's usually 1/4 of an inch or so right here. I have a marked line there. You have to put an oil hole in. So you'll take this out.
That screw?
You have this screw out. And you'll take the one before you do some work on it. And you'll set it in here. And it will slide in. First I had to machine this down. And then you'll get to where it just comes out this side. Because we have a piece here, this piece here runs on the mandrel shaft. And it sits right here on the mandrel shaft. And you want this piece not to run on the casting, but you want it to be running on the bearing itself. Okay? And usually these are boogered up. And I have a little line there, but I put it on a flat piece of paper with 600 grit, and I polished it out so it'd be running smooth against this. So you take your part after you get it machined, and you insert this like that. And I just got a little bit off the casting in the front. And originally this one did have that when I was looking.
Did have what?
Had a little bit of it sticking out, because you don't want it in like that. Then this collar is beating against the casting. You want the collar to hit the bearing. So then you take a little punch and you punch that hole right here. Just tap, tap, tap. Little center punch. Then you figure out where that hole is, and you want to make it a little bit bigger, just so the screw that goes in will fit in here to hold it in place. Then you set it up, after you set all that up, and you go, okay, I got it locked in, the screw hole, that works. Because you have this hole and this hole. To make it easy, I make that hole a little bigger so that I can set up and drill that hole. This has a taper just like the factory, and it all goes together. Then, what you have to do is you have to burnish this in. Okay, we have oilized bronze, and we have the mandrel shaft. And it's called burnishing it in. You're gonna put oil in. I have videos on this. You're gonna run the valve lapping compound machine on the mandrel, and you're gonna sit here and just let it run so it mates into the steel and the soft bronze run together. And then pretty soon down the road, 10, 15 minutes, you'll be able to spin the mandrel, and it'll just spin like there's no tomorrow. But before you do that, here it is. Before you do that, You have to take your veneer calipers, and this is where it gets complicated with Edison. This is not even all the way down. I have a thousandths difference from this end of it to that hole that holds the collar. So now you're working with a little bit of looseness. So when you burnish it in, it'll just seat itself in. You want to polish this out with 600, so that when the bearing comes on, it'll spin. I'll show you. So what I've done is I set this bearing up, this end bearing here that holds the 2 4-minute changer and the pulley. I've lined it up for here so everything's in position. So you get it in position. Now after you burnish it in, it'll just spin real easily. And the other thing is, this oilized bronze bearing will never ever wear out. And Edison said, we always have to do things better. This is how we do things better. This takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And back in the old days, just get off subject, people try to use a needle bearing, and these things really, really rattle. You know, I've heard people putting needle bearings in here and making them run now. And then I made this tool. I have two. This is the bronze bushing for a home, because sometimes everything's off on the inside and you have to machine this here. On the last part, my angel can focus in on the hole right here. You'll see the drill marks in here. This isn't machined and reamed out from the factory. They just drilled it. This is real clean compared to some I've seen that have nothing but gouges in here. And then when you're doing the bearing, now you're fighting the gouges and everything. It's a lot of fun. Gets a little complicated sometimes, and that is my tip for the day.